going on, Kettlebell Kings? This is Marcus Martinez, and this is our live kettlebell workout. So this is going to be a strength and power workout. I'm very excited about this one because I'm going to give you a few different movements and some of my favorite movements. Let me go live on here too. Let's see if I can get it all at once. I'm going to need 8 arms for this going forward. There we go. Going live. Going live. Yeah, checking connection. Almost there. Oh, I'm so ready to clap. What's going on? All right. What's up, everybody? This is Marcus Martinez. This is our kettlebell workout today. So it's going to be a strength and power workout. So let me just give you a disclaimer. If you want to really build some incredible strength and power with kettlebells, you got to go heavier, and you're going to want to increase the rest periods. A little bit more than I'm going to do on this one. This one's going to be still a little bit shorter than what I would like, but I just want to give you the movements that I'm going to incorporate into this. But we're going to go through this entire workout together, and I will give you lots of cues and technique stuff as well. So what we're going to do is we'll start off with a little warm-up, and then we'll go through the workout, which is going to be a few different movements. Now ideally, you have a couple kettlebells for this, but if you only have one, you're going to just have to make do. But you can do these exercises with double kettlebells, which is just going to increase the overall output and definitely the load on you. So it's going to absolutely build even more strength and power. So we'll go through a very quick, nice, simple, dynamic warm-up, and then we'll get right into the movements. And there's going to be lots of rest on this one. So if you have any questions, let me know. I'd love to help you out. Hello. I love seeing where you all are from, so definitely drop that down below. All right, stand up nice and tall. Bring your arms out. This is my go-to. I love the corkscrew. If you've ever done any kettlebell work, done any joint mobility, anything like that, it's just a great way to get some internal, external rotation through the shoulder, get some rotation through the spine, just get things nice and warmed up. So stand up nice and tall. Try to get as much rotation as you can as you do it. Stand up nice and tall. Get as much rotation. So this front arm, I'm really trying to externally rotate it. This back arm, I'm really trying to internally rotate it. And this is all we're going to do for 45 minutes. So hang tight. Shoulders going to burn. And time. All right, check it out. From here, let's go into some hinging practice. So I want you to stand nice and tall. I want you to imagine you have your chest nice and proud the entire time. So we don't want to round at any point as we're doing this. Chest is nice and proud. So I want to imagine I'm bringing my hips back and slightly down. So I don't want to just come back because then that's just me bending over. I don't come down because then that's just a squat. So right in between the two, stand nice and tall. So we'll exaggerate this a little bit more and add another component to it. But for right now, all I want you to do is get into this bottom position right here. While you're here, make sure you're feeling the hamstrings, you're feeling the glutes, you're maintaining that tension throughout your torso. You can match your breath to this. So we're getting some breath work as well. Practice that diaphragmatic breathing. Notice how shallow or how low I'm going. I'm still maintaining shoulders above hips. So I don't want to get down to here. No matter how good my mobility is, I still want to stay at that nice positive angle. And from here, let's go ahead and rotate. Add a little bit of a step in there. We'll start some kettlebell dancing. This is going to be simple. We're just doing, like I said, power, strength. We're going to be doing a few different exercises. I'll walk you through them. We'll go through them, hopefully together, and then I'll have the whole thing written down here for you all as well. And let's go through the corkscrews again. So I'm going for about 20-ish seconds for each of these movements. I like to make sure my warm-up is just long enough to feel like I'm prepared for the movements I'm doing, but not so much that it takes away from what I'm doing. So I'm a big fan of doing some primers, a couple different movements, but I don't like to go too crazy. I don't need to, spend 25 minutes getting everything warm, unless I absolutely need it, which typically don't. Now what I want you to do is I want you to tilt your pelvis forward as you come back. So as I'm coming forward, I'm doing that anterior tilt. So I'm really trying to exaggerate this arch. So from here, what you'll find is a lot of my clients, when they weren't feeling it in their hamstrings or their glutes, and they were just feeling their back, as soon as they got into that arch, that anterior pelvic tilt, they kind of felt that lengthen through the hamstring up into the glutes. And then as you stand up, I want you to push through the ground and then finish with nice, tight buttocks. otherwise known as a posterior pelvic tilt. So this movement right here is going to make sure that you are hinging properly and that you're maintaining enough of a balanced load through your torso so it's not all in your lower back. I'm really focusing on driving my hips back and getting in that right position. I'm not just what you would normally see people do. You know, I'm not gonna lie. I saw someone at the gym the other day doing swings, and I'm pretty sure someone just told them, all right, you're just gonna like bend over. And when the person asked, like, how do I do it? There's an just bend over. That's all you gotta do. So you know, there's more to the hinge than just bending over. Now, as I'm doing this, I'm also thinking about my connection to the ground. I'm not just kind of, yeah, even if I'm adding speed, I'm still thinking of my connection to the ground. One more time. And rotate. I know it's about 100 degrees in here, so I'm warm. I'm going to do one more set just for you, and then we'll get into the first few movements. Ooh, got a little pop in there. So if you have a kettlebell, you can do, I love alternating halos around the bodies. You can absolutely incorporate the kettlebell in your warm-up. Arm bars, bent presses, lots of different things you can do. And back to the hinge. So now I focused on the hinge pattern. I focused on tension, making sure where I'm feeling it, where I want to feel it. Now let's move up the chain. Let's look at our shoulders and neck. Make sure as we're coming up and down, we're keeping a nice neutral neck. So I'm not coming down and bending down. I'm not coming up and extending. So just making sure we got the basics down before we start loading all this BS. Having some fun. So we're going to use a single bell on this one, which is one of the things I love with kettlebells because typically you're using 2 dumbbells if you're doing even explosive work, so you're getting that bilateral work, or you're using a barbell so everything's balanced. With the kettlebell, for me, I like using single heavy kettlebell work as a way to increase my core strength, to weed out some weaknesses and help me focus one side at a time, which again, typically we do everything all at once. So let's go through the movements. And the way I have this set, we're starting off with some power work, explosive work, and then we'll be going into more of the strength work, and then we'll finish off, we'll finish it. But the 2 exercises we're gonna alternate first for this first superset. We're gonna go from a split jerk and then a dead start snatch. So we're not gonna do them as a complex or anything. I want you to focus on each exercise at a time. So the first one's gonna be a split jerk. So as you go into, if you've ever done a jerk before, remember, it's a double dip. I'm slightly dipping, and then as the weight comes up, I'm dipping again. So that will be a jerk. The split jerk is I'm gonna get into a half kind of split stance position. Not quite a lunge, but kind of close to that. So what's it gonna look like? I'm gonna rack it on the right side. I'm gonna dip, slight dip, not a squat press. Dip, and then as I explode up, I'm gonna dip again, and I'm just gonna use an offset position. So I'm gonna press up, and then I'm gonna catch in that offset position, stand up tall, come right back down. So creating that stop to really exaggerate that power output. And the same thing that you would experience if you were doing using a barbell or a dumbbell for any kind of jerk movements. All right, so the other side. So now you can switch the stance. You can keep it the same stance as you would with a barbell. It doesn't matter. I personally feel more comfortable with that same stance. So slight dip, explode up, right back down. Slight dip, explode up, right back down. Whew. So the goal here is speed. It's output. It's trying to be as powerful as possible. So we'll keep ramping up on the reps and the weight as we do this. Next one we're going to do, and also for the rep ranges, like I said, I'm going to have everything written on here. I want to go through this as I would go through it, but the rest, I would like you to exaggerate that rest a little bit more. So spend a little bit more time on this. I know most of the things that we do are complexes and flows and conditioning circuits and fast-paced. I want to slow it down just a bit and really focus on perfect movements and as much intention as possible. All right, dead start snatch. So all that implies drive from the heels up to the overhead position, bring it back down to the rack position, and then repeat. So from the heels, pull the shoulders down, explode up, right back down. Again, explode up, right back down. As the spell gets a little bit heavier, you might have to incorporate a slight dip as you would with a barbell, as long as that weight isn't slamming on your forearm. Back down, shake it out. And then whatever rest period you incorporate based on the weights that you're using, incorporate it for the sides as well. So we typically do left side and go right into the right side and then maybe rest. And then the next exercise, left side, then right side. Rest between the sides. You're still stimulating that nervous system. You're still engaging all the musculature that you would be for the other side, just not the specifics of the shoulder. Like you're still hitting your core, you're still hitting your posterior chain. So you want to rest so that way you can apply just as much force to that other side. All right, let's do it. And down. Making sure you're explosive as you're doing this. Nice loose grip. And down. Whew. All right, I'm warm. I'm feeling good. I hope you're feeling good along with me. So this was the first superset. We're going to increase the weight here as we go through this. Bugging the crap out of me, so I'm going to tie that. But this is the split jerk and the dead snatch, dead start snatch. All right. Let's keep the party going. So back to the split jerk, and then we'll go back into the dead start snatch. But for the split jerk, let's talk about that again while we're resting here. Remember, we're starting off nice and tall, nice proud chest, nice core engagement. With that dip, I want to make sure it's just low enough to give me a bit of a runway so that I have some momentum to pull, or to some distance to be able to speed through, but not so much that I turn it into a squat press. So you'll see that a lot of times with the jerk, someone dropping down way too low. It's just a couple inches and then power through. And trust me, a couple inches is all you need on this one. Ready? Rack it up. So we're gonna go back to the right side. Drop that shoulder down. I'm gonna dip and then power back up. Dip, power back up. And let's go one more. So even though there's speed, I'm still in control the entire time. All right? I'm never going out of control as I'm doing this. Does that make sense? Are we feeling good? Adding in the split jerks here. So we're gonna go to the other side next. Everything's just coming undone right now. The whole world's unraveling. All right, there we go. Back to the other side now. So I'm resting just enough so that I can continue to apply as much power as possible. Control that descent. And down. So rep range we're working with in this first superset is the 3 to 6 rep range. So short enough that I can apply a lot of output. I can go a little bit heavier, but then not so much or not so many reps where it's going to tax me excessively. Whew. We're going to go into the dead start snatch next. Split jerks, dead start snatches. A lot going on. So if I want to make this even more intense, I can elevate my feet. I can go into, put a couple plates. So I'm increasing the range of motion. Another way that you can intensify it is by decreasing the range of motion excessively. So going from a hang snatch. Now I don't have as much of a runway to go off of. All right. This our snatch, pull, explode. Get that little dip if you'd like. Control all the way down. Control all the way down. And I love adding in speed work into my kettlebell training. You get when you start to think about what, in terms of athletics, doesn't matter what sport you're doing, being able to manage your body through space, through different speeds, at different positions, adding in rotation, working in offset positions, working unilaterally, even if it's not true unilaterally, if I have my back foot down. That to me has so much carryover. And there'll be a lot of fitness enthusiasts that say, oh, you don't need kettlebells. You need a lot of stability. It's like, well, okay, if you're trying to focus on one aspect of your training, maybe to apply as much tension or pressure to a particular muscle group, then yeah, adding in stability is necessary. But if you want to just feel like you got a full workout, engage your core so much more, do a little bit more than you would if you were using a lot of benches. And I have benches, and I like using machines, but I love using just the kettlebells to add in that ballistic work. And make sure you're catching in that rack or in that overhead position. There's no extra movement. And like I said, resting as much as you need to be able to get through the workout and apply and use the appropriate weight for the reps that we're using. So if this is a 3 to 6 rep range and you're going through and you're like, I can do like 20 more reps, that is not the right rep range, or that's not the right weight for you. So I want to make sure you're using challenging enough weight to be able to get the stimulus that you're trying to achieve from this. Power strength workouts, man. Doing those and having enough rest to be able to go through the next one. Didn't think that one through, but I just wanted you to make sure that you had something that you could incorporate that was beyond, just doing a bunch of swings, which we'll get to swings. I love swings, or just doing a lot of conditioning work with the kettlebell. All right. Last set, we'll do split jerks, and then we'll go into Deadstart snatch. So remember, even regardless of what you use, try to control the descent. So even though you're powering through the concentric phase, the rising phase, I want you to control that descent, because it's not like a typical way where you can drop the weight out overhead. And you can if you have your own home gym. But if not, then make sure you're controlling it. So slight dip, power through, control that descent. Slight dip, control that descent. Control that descent. And then, again, rest as much as you need. So we get caught up in this notion that kettlebells are just for conditioning. And what was there too? I used to think that back in the day. But I mean, I'm looking at it doesn't matter what weight you're using, whatever's challenging for you. But look at the 200-pound kettlebell. No, that's not just conditioning right there. All right. Last split jerk. Rack position. Nice vertical alignment. So dip underneath the weight. I want to be as powerful as possible through that ascent. Oh, man. Whew. That feels good. I like that. If you have any questions, let me know. Hopefully, if you're not doing it, you're saving it for later. You're like, Marcus, I'm having a coffee right now. Not ready to work out. That's all right. I'll do it for you. All right. So that was a split jerk. Last set, Deadstart snatch, and then we'll move on to the next circuit or the next superset. So with the Deadstart snatch, as the bell gets heavier, you might want to bring it down to the rack position. If it's light and you want to practice that eccentric, that negative from the drop from the top, then you can do that as well. But if not, just down to the rack position and then touch. Oh, all right. Deadstart snatches. They're kind of a controversial one for some reason, because there's kettlebell purists that are like, oh, you can only snatch with the hinge. You have to let the bell drop. You got to use momentum. You want to be able to do more reps. But changing up where you're pulling from, changing up that pattern is just going to add a new tool to your toolbox. It's going to give you a new stimulus to be able to incorporate into your training. So if you want to intensify weight, use the Deadstart snatch. It's a great vertical pulling where you're not going to be able to use as much momentum. It's definitely going to increase just your overall power. This is why kettlebell or barbell snatches are great. The problem is most people don't have access to that position with both hands. But typically, unilaterally, you do. So because you can have a slight bit of rotation through the torso, it makes it way more accessible to the average person. All right. I'm going to say enough talking, but I'm not shutting up till I'm done. Deadstart snatch. Explode up, back down. And, oh. Whew. So that was the first superset. I'm not gonna lie, it kind of sucked a lot. But just, again, with any one of these lives, whether I do them here, to my own page, things I post, my goal is to just show you what's possible with the kettlebell and things that you can incorporate for you at the right time. So maybe this whole workout isn't gonna work for you, but the split jerks. You're a real big fan of barbell split jerks, but you don't have access to a bar, okay? A couple dumbbells, a couple kettlebells. Or the Deadstart snatch. You want to mix up your explosive pulling. That works too. All right. Next up, we're going to start off with a half renegade row. And all that means is we're just going to pull on one side. So typically with renegade rows, you're going to alternate back and forth. I want you to just focus on one side. So we've got the stability of the planted shoulder. We've got the stability of that anterior core, that front side, and then really just throughout your entire torso. There's just a lot of tension here. And because there's a little bit more of a foundation than what you would experience if you were alternating or even just in a bend over position, you have some of the foundation, you could typically go a little bit heavier. Siri, I don't know why you're involving yourself today. So you can focus on one side and you can typically go a little bit heavier. So we're gonna start off with this half renegade row. So I'm going to hold my position. I want to make sure I'm nice and stable as I'm doing this. And from here, I'm just going to pull up and right back down. So I'm sticking to one side as I'm doing this. And now I'm going in that 6 to 10 rep range. So with renegade rows, focus on any kind of row. Focus on keeping that elbow vertical, the forearm vertical. So as you pull, you're not pulling with this weird kind of forearm-centric vertical pull. I'm trying to pull up and back so I can really focus on my upper back, my lat, and not just on how much weight I'm able to pull up. As you're doing this, focus on the weight or the arm that's planted. So you have lots of control and as much of a foundation as possible. I would definitely not do this with anything less than like a 12. If you're using comp bells, anything less than like a 16 or 12K gets a little hairy. And if you're using powder coat, definitely nothing less than 16s. So since you're only doing one side at a time, you can use a heavier belt as the foundation and then use the belt that you're going to be rowing as the lighter one. But in this case, we'll just keep the same. Control, control. Let's say you're going through this and you're like, yo, I'm starting to lose it. Just walk your feet forward. Get yourself into like a tabletop quadruped position. And oh. All right, so we got some rowing. Next up, we're gonna do a racked split squat. So rack lunge. What we'll do is we'll do offset. So I'm gonna rack it on one side and I'm gonna lunge back with that same leg. Since I pulled with my right side first, I'm gonna rack the bell with my right side first on this. So we're supersetting this, going from the half renegade rows into the racked back lunge, okay? So I'm gonna rack it up on the right side. I'm gonna lunge back with my right leg. I'm gonna try to maintain as much linear position. So I'm trying not to lean into the bell. I'm not trying to lean away from the bell. I'm trying to keep my center of mass nice and stable. So as I'm doing this, since I'm in that offset contralateral position, I'm feeling that throughout my obliques significantly more. And since I was just doing renegade rows that were so core oblique centric, this is just feeling so much heavier. Oh, so not just building rowing or squatting strength, I'm definitely building strength throughout my entire body. All right, back at it. So I'm going to offset, so that same side, and then control. If I want to add a little bit more to this, don't let your knee touch the ground. Pause for a second, and then power up. Pause for a second, and then power up. Woo! Oh my goodness. That's good. That's a great combo right there too. So again, even if you don't take this whole workout and apply it, which superset worked for you, which exercise might work for you. Back to some sweaty renegade rows. Next live, have a towel handy because it's hot in here. Oh, I'd love to hear what so far, what has been your exercise that you're like, ooh, I'm gonna incorporate that. Or if it's all exercises that you've done before, which one are you interested in? Which one is your favorite? Have you ever done split jerks? Have you ever done Deadstart snatch? Half renegade rows? So I'm controlling that descent. I'm not rotating with it. What you find with some of these exercises, again, I'm all for adding stability in your sessions, but I love stuff like that because you start to feel it in places that you don't typically train. You start to feel that in your hip flexor. You start to feel that in your ankles. You feel it in these different areas that you typically don't work. So it doesn't need to be the bulk of what you do, but it's a good idea to incorporate stuff like that into your training. So what's up, Mav? How you doing, brother? Now he's got some awesome lives. He's got some awesome posts as well. He's a strong mother. All right, let's do other side. Pull up, control it down. And control that descent. So we already worked that power, that speed. Now we want to control the lift from the concentric through the eccentric, from the rising through the lowering phase. Oh. You'll find when you do a lot of core heavy exercises like this, like renegade rows, racked position squats and such, it is incredibly taxing. Like you feel that through your entire abdominal wall just because you're trying to maintain that tension. But then it's also cardiovascularly taxing because it's hard to get a full breath. So you're kind of battling through that. So it makes it feel significantly harder. Does that mean you should only do that and not do something with a little bit more stability, like barbell deadlifts or trap bar deadlifts or heavy kettlebell, single arm deadlifts? Of course not. It's all good. It's all fun. Right back into that offset contralateral lunge. And then add a pause. Right back. So making sure both knees are tracking over toes. We're in this day and age now where a lot of good information is out there about how far your knee should go. Your knee can go back over your toe. We've established that now. But remember, if you for years have been that person that's like, I can't let my knee travel over my toe. I can't let it travel over my toe. And then all of a sudden you got this kind of permission to do it. And then you go push yourself. You go a little bit too far too soon. And work your way up to it. At least loaded. We should all be able to get into a A to G squat. Sorry, ass to G squat. Control. So I'm keeping tension. As you're doing this, if you're doing this properly and you're creating enough intention with each lift, you're feeling this everywhere. So I'm pausing in that bottom position for just a second. Oh man, that's a good one. I like that one. So we've gone from half renegade rows on one side into the rack squats. All right, so we're gonna go one more round through that, and then we'll get into some ballistic with some static work. So I love incorporating ballistic work with a lot of stability. So not as the same exercise, but in a superset fashion. And with that one, we'll get a little bit fancier. No flows, no flips today. It is really funny to watch the kettlebell world. I've been doing kettlebell since about 2006. My first certification, 2008, and I've seen every iteration. I've been a hard style. This is the only way. I've been interested in kettlebell sport. I love flows. I've done a little bit of everything. So it cracks me up to hear people like, this is not the proper exercise. You gotta do it this way. That's always fun. Well, my advice is to everybody who does kettlebells is learn from a wide variety of coaches. When you hear one coach's voice, and that's the only voice you hear, it's easy to get caught up in that doctrine. Not just something like a hard style, but even flows and thinking that's the way. That's not the way either. It's whatever works for you, first off, as a practitioner, and then if you're a trainer, what your clients need. I had clients, they hated doing flips and flows, and they thrived on just basic movements. And then I had clients that hated doing the same thing over and over, so we had to kind of switch it up enough where we were progressing, getting better, but not making, the stimulus thingable, because otherwise, that's just gimmicky, that's just novelty. So when it comes to flows and flips and all that kind of stuff, to me, that's more a mental game. It's definitely physical. You take even a 12K or a super light belt and you flip it like something like you'd see Colin, daring on here do, like that's gonna challenge you. You're gonna get your heart rate up, your grip is gonna be on fire. So there still is a physical benefit to that. But like I was saying, if you're only listening to one coach, that's the only way you're doing things, you're missing out. Like I had some great coaches over the years, going and doing workshops with Pablo and seeing his attention to detail, just a handful of movements, talking to people like Steve Maxwell and starting to get into rotation and more what you would consider flows, or Steve Cotter or Mike Malt. Like there's so many great coaches out there. And then, you got in the sport world, Laura Kleiman, who's freaking awesome. Like she inspires the crap out of me. There's some just awesome coaches of all areas. If you find yourself getting caught up with, well, they do things this way. Now, if you agree with every single thing your coach says, then you gotta broaden your horizon. This is the rantiest workout ever, so sorry, not sorry. And now, I get caught up in this stuff. I get engaged, I get fired up when I see this stuff. Because, instead of building each other up, helping each other, you'll get so caught up in doing things a certain way and marketing things a certain way. Don't think for a second that's not incorporated. All right, last set of this. Balance. And one more. So this has only been 4 movements. I'm sway spaghetti. This has been already quite a challenge. And really a good workout shouldn't be a billion different movements. If you do a few things really well, even if they're outside of what you would typically do or think of in the traditional lifting sense, do a few things really well, that's going to give you the freedom to do a lot of things. You're really strong in your basics. I think we can all agree on that. All right, so last one we're going to do, time for this one. We're going to do an alternating rotational swing. So we're getting a little rotationally here. So stay with me. And then we're going to go into a bottoms up march. So for that bottoms up position, I want you to try to keep your shoulder down. So it's not going to be like you can go light and bring your arm up and make it more shoulder driven. but I want to keep this more core and then a lot of upper body stability. So you're going to feel this, I mean, still in your shoulders, but primarily in your upper back and your lats. So we'll start off with the alternating rotational swings. Now, quick disclaimer here, or I guess technique tip. As you're doing this, you can start getting fancy with it, changing the steps and everything, but with the rotation, it's very subtle. All I want you to think, so if this is a hinge, I want you to lift up or straighten your right knee. So notice what happens. I'm starting to open up the hips, and now this rotation will allow me to spiral out through the rest of my torso. So I'm not thinking about rotating, I'm always thinking about my hips. So as I come down, I'm just going to allow one leg to straighten a little bit faster and one hip to rise a little bit more. So without any weights, you can see, switch. Notice how there's this rotation. So I can still apply that same tension, explosivity, a lot of power, but what I'm doing now is I'm creating a little instability and adding that rotation there. So I can lift this leg, I can stagger this leg, don't worry about all that. Just focus on that slight rotation, all right? All right. Oh, right in that rotation. So I'm rotating my torso, keeping my neck in line with my torso, or my head in line with my torso, so I'm not looking over my shoulders. Whew. I really like that one because with that, you can just apply a little bit more tension to that glute. So as you swing and you rotate slightly, you're gonna feel that stretch up in through the glute. Super powerful stuff. And then because you're almost coming at it like a punch or a kick or a throw, it allows you to build that rotational power, but in a much more condensed way. And because we're not just throwing the weight like we would with a medicine ball or something, I have to reload. So I can stick to one side, I can eccentrically, ballistically load that side, and then keep powering through. Whoa. It's also very hot. Get your heart rate up. Good power. I'm trying to drop my hand. This thing is wet as a mother. All right. So I'm adding in the march. Lots of tension. Whoa. Lots of stability. And just these two movements, the level of grip strength that you're going to build from this. So if the weight gets too heavy, just use your hand for a little bit of support, or drop the weight. You can always do that. That works too. You're still with me? How you feeling? You're doing the workout, and props to you. You're not doing the workout, which one are you excited to do first? Which exercise are you just like, man, I gotta try that one? Ah. There you go, keep it going. Going from alternating rotational swings into a bottoms up march. Back down. Oh, we'll go one more time through that, and then if there's any questions, I'll answer them. Otherwise, that's still going. I'll answer the questions on here. Make sure you catch all the awesome coaches here on Kettlebell Kings when they got some great workouts in here. Matt's got some great workouts. Lauren's got good ones, great ones. I was just trying to not say the same word again. All right. Last set, alternating swings with the rotation. So to spice it up a little more, you can take that step back, and now I'm really focusing on that rotation, focusing on that one side. Otherwise, you can lift that foot, add that rotation, or if you're feeling this, if you're feeling a lot in your back, just lessen the level of rotation, or go into just traditional alternating swings. I find that adding that rotation actually takes the pressure off the lower back. Because if you're keeping a lot of tension, trying to stay super stable, anti-rotation, it doesn't feel natural. If I put my arm down, where's the weight? It's like I have to bring it in across the body. So when I add that rotation, oh, look at that. Everything's in line with my center of mass. Feels a little more comfortable. So last set of bottoms up marches. Bring it up. Take that step. You can slow it down, make it more challenging. Breathe through that tension. Don't let the bell kiss you. It's a mean son of a gun. And down. And once I put this down on here, and let's say you decide to do this workout, just use some discretion on what weights you're using, on what rep ranges you're using. I want it to be challenging. We don't need to crush you, right? Right. Last set. Back and forth. Breathe through that tension. Very easy to hold your breath if you're so focused on finishing the lift or you're using a really heavy weight. Whew. That is all sure. Man. So, give that a try. Let me know what you think. I'll try to see if there's any questions on here, but again, my goal with these workouts is to show you what's possible with kettlebell. In this case, with this workout, let's break it down. With that ballistic speed, we're working some power output, we're working control, because even with that speed, we're still trying to control one aspect of the lift. We're working triple extension, so coming up onto the toes, which is there's so much carryover into your athletics. I wish I could say that do a lot of that builds your calves, but it is what it is. And then after doing that power output, going into the strength work, just alternating between the half renegade row and the racked offset squat or offset lunge. So, and just offset again just means same side that was loaded, that side came back. So the stability was across the body. And then finishing off with alternating rotational swings with the bottoms up marches. So just an awesome, very simple, yet very complex. These movements are complex. So make sure to work within the technique that you have. Don't go beyond what you're capable of. Practice those things, practice the basics, and then work your way up. So you can do, let's say for this workout in particular, you don't have the technique down with the snatch, and you're not very comfortable with the rack position. Use a dumbbell for the first 2 exercises. I know, blasphemy on a kettlebell king's pace, but use a dumbbell for the first 2 exercises. Then for the second 2 exercises, where there's a lot more control, then use the kettlebells. And then if you, let's say you're brand new to kettlebells, for that last exercise, do 2-hand swings. Do alternating swings. Work within your abilities. So there's always something fun to be doing with kettlebells. I love me a good kettlebell workout as the next person. So love the waves. Hope you enjoy it. Let's see if there's any questions on the first. And appreciate all the joins. I will be going on a few more lives, going over some more technique stuff, because as much as I've been in the kettlebell world for a long time, I know it is still a relatively new tool for a lot of people. So I want to make sure everyone's got that down. They understand how to do these movements properly, safely. All right, that's all I got. I'll see you, and I will catch you on